I'm Margaret Hollis, 78 years old, and I've been told more than once that I see value where no one else bothers to look. I used to think that was a compliment. On the evening of my granddaughter Lila's 30th birthday, I realized it was also a curse. Her Manhattan apartment glittered with polished marble counters, gold-rimmed champagne flutes, and a crowd that looked like they'd stepped out of a luxury catalog. I had driven in from my quiet house in Narragansett, the same one where my late husband Robert and I had spent 35 years building a life thinking my gift would be something she'd cherish. In my hands was a small box wrapped in cream paper from a stationer's shop I'd loved for decades. Inside were two fabric dolls, Lila in a satin gown, Gavin in a navy suit stitched by my own hands over weeks of late nights. My fingers ached from the arthritis, but I'd kept going, hiding a deep blue sapphire, the one my mother gave me, inside the bride doll's heart. It was Robert's idea years ago to set it into a pendant for our 40th anniversary. I thought foolishly it might become Lila's something blue. When her turn came to open my gift, she pinched the doll between her manicured fingers like it might leave a stain on her dress. "This looks so cheap." "Grandma," she said loud enough for the whole room. A ripple of laughter passed through her guests. Gavin smirked. My son David avoided my eyes. I felt heat climb my neck, the kind you can't disguise. I didn't tell her about the sapphire. I didn't tell her about the nights I stayed up sewing by the yellow kitchen light. I simply smiled, and when I left early, no one tried to stop me. That night, in my email, there was a contract from Lila. "Grandma, here's the agreement for using your beach house for our September wedding. Please sign and send back. Invitations have already been mailed." The morning after the party, I made coffee strong enough to fight the throb behind my eyes and opened the email again. The contract blinked back at me in polite corporate language venue. Access pre-wedding renovations, liability riders I was expected to initial. The address at the top was my own, the weathered shingle house on Ocean Road, and yet the tone read like I was a stranger being granted temporary entry. My phone buzzed before the kettle clicked off. David's name filled the screen. He didn't bother with hello. Mom Sophie found a fantastic retirement community in Connecticut. Spa chef's table, dining medical on site. We set a tour for next Thursday, just to look. Steam rose in a thin ribbon between us. David. "I'm not touring anything." He exhaled the way he does when a junior associate misses a deadline. "Let's not be stubborn. It's time to simplify. You won't have to worry about stairs or paperwork." Paperwork like signing away my house for a wedding I didn't agree to host. The silence was its own admission. He pivoted. "It'll be good for Lila to celebrate where she feels rooted. We'll cover the initial vendor deposits." I looked at the contract's payment schedule and the line marked "Owner to Fund Pre-Approved Updates." "No," I said and set the mug down. "You won't." He started to argue. I ended the call. 2 minutes later, a text from Sophie arrived with smiling emojis and a brochure link. "This floor plan is perfect for you. Lots of light." She'd circled a studio the size of my current pantry. I closed the laptop and stood at the sink, where the winter sun throws a bright rectangle onto the counter. The tile was cool under my palms. A gull cut a white arc past the window, its cry thin as thread. I could feel the old habit rising, say yes, smooth things over, make it easy for everyone. My hands trembled and I let them. The shaking told the truth before my mouth did. Ethan called then, voice soft. "Grandma, are you okay?" He'd seen me leave the party early. I told him I was fine. He didn't believe me. Dad left some printouts by the home printer. Second mortgage stuff. It doesn't look good. The kettle clicked off. I didn't pour. "Thank you for telling me," I said, and the decision arrived as calmly as the sound of the sea beyond my window. I would drive to the house. Not for the contract. For my keys. For my say. The drive down to Narragansett should have taken 40 minutes, but my hands gripped the wheel tighter than usual, and I kept catching myself pressing too hard on the gas, then easing off. The February light was sharp, bouncing off the frozen salt crust along the road's shoulder. When I pulled into the driveway, a sleek black SUV was parked crooked its nose, almost kissing the porch steps. Inside, the air smelled faintly of lavender cleaner, the kind Sophie prefers. I followed voices toward the kitchen. "This wall will have to come down," a woman was saying. "Opens the whole space. Very coastal chic." I stepped into the doorway. Lila, Sophie, and a tall woman in white slacks holding a tablet turned toward me. "Grandma," Lila said. Recovering from her surprise, we were just discussing some small updates for the wedding. "Taking out a load-bearing wall isn't small," I said. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. Sophie's smile tightened. "Margaret, it's modernization. You've said yourself the place feels dated." I looked past them at the window over the sink. Beyond it, the Atlantic rolled in the same view Robert and I had saved 10 years to afford. Who approved these changes? "Remember last Christmas?" Lila tilted her head. "You said we could make it perfect for the ceremony. I said you could use it. I didn't agree to demolition." The designer lifted her tablet like a visual aid in a courtroom. White walls, white slipcovers, bleached floors. "Instagram loves this palette." On the mantel, the photo from our 40th anniversary was missing. In its place, a foam board with swatches and words like Hampton's Breeze scrawled in gold marker. Later, after they'd gone, I found the photo in a box in the garage marked Margaret's Things. The balsa wood frame was nicked at the corner. Under it lay my anniversary album, Robert's dog-eared novels, and the dolls from last night, tossed in without ceremony. I touched the bride doll's chest. The sapphire was still there, the stitches intact. For now. My phone rang. "David, we should talk about consolidating your assets, just for efficiency." I closed the box. "Not tonight," I said and hung up. The waves outside sounded closer than they had in years. Ethan called again the next afternoon, his voice low, like we were conspiring. "Grandma, I went through more of Dad's papers. There are letters from the bank. He's late on payments for something big, and there's a list your house is on it." I sat at my kitchen table, the contract from Lila still lying where I'd left it, a coffee ring staining the corner. "You're sure?" I asked. "I wouldn't say it if I wasn't." He hesitated. "He's planning on the sale after the wedding to fix everything." The realization settled in my chest, cold and heavy. This wasn't about a celebration. It was a financial life raft, and I was the ocean under it. That night, I logged into my bank account. 3 failed login attempts from an unknown device blinked red in the activity log. My stomach turned. I could almost hear Robert's voice in my head, calm, measured, telling me to get the facts before I reacted. The next morning, I called Harold Kent, the attorney Robert had trusted. His voice, gravelly but warm, answered on the second ring. "Margaret, it's been too long." We met that afternoon at a cafe off Main Street. Harold looked older, more silver at his temples, but his eyes hadn't lost their sharpness. I told him everything from the party to the boxes in the garage to Ethan's warnings. He listened without interrupting, just drumming his fingers lightly on the table. When I finished, he leaned back. "I've seen this before. Family in a financial corner will move fast and they'll dress it up as concern. If you want to keep control, you need to act now. What are my options?" He didn't blink. "Sell the house. On your terms, before they can tie it up legally." Outside, the wind had picked up scattering sand across the asphalt. I thought of the dolls, the sapphire, the photo on the mantel that wasn't there anymore. The house wasn't just mine, it was me. And suddenly I knew exactly what I had to do. The morning after meeting Harold, I stood in my bedroom staring at the keys to the beach house on my dresser. They lay beside Robert's old compass, the one he'd carried on every fishing trip. My fingers closed around both. I called a real estate agent named Clara Jennings, recommended by Harold. Her voice was brisk, but not unkind. When I told her I wanted a private sale fast, she paused only long enough to ask, "How fast? As soon as you can find a buyer who won't turn it into a sideshow." She promised to meet me at the house that afternoon. I arrived early, unlocking the front door and stepping into rooms that felt suddenly foreign. Swatches of fabric and glossy paint chips littered the dining table. A sketch of the bridal suite had my bedroom labeled in looping cursive. On the porch swing Robert built, I sat with the compass in my lap, letting the salt wind sting my cheeks. Clara showed up in navy slacks and practical shoes, her handshake firm. She walked through the house without theatrics, stopping at the big living room window. Oceanfront like this, I have someone in mind. Tech money. They'll want it yesterday. The speed in her tone startled me, but it also matched the beat of my own thoughts. Arrange it, I said. That night, Lila's wedding planner knocked on my door. She looked startled to see me instead of Sophie. Just here to measure for the tent, she explained. There won't be a tent, I said. The wedding isn't happening here. Her eyes darted to her clipboard as if the paper could argue with me. I closed the door gently. In the quiet that followed, I realized my pulse was steady. For months, I'd been reacting, apologizing, smoothing. Now, for the first time, I was steering. The wheel was mine again. The call came from David 2 days later, his voice clipped. Dinner at our place tomorrow, 7 sharp. We need to talk about recent decisions. By the time I arrived, the dining room was lit like a stage. Sophie arranged a platter of hors d'oeuvres no one would eat. Lila sat with her arms folded, eyes red but chin high. At the end of the table, a neat stack of papers weighted brochures for retirement communities, a business card from an elder law attorney, and on top a blank power of attorney form. David tried for a warm tone. Mom, we're worried about you. Selling the house so suddenly, it's impulsive, potentially destructive. You mean selling my own property? I asked, taking my seat. It's 3 weeks before Lila's wedding, Lila cut in. You've made it impossible for us. Sophie's voice oozed concern. We just want to protect you from stress and bad decisions. For my benefit or for your financial interests, I asked. The room went still. David's jaw worked. I'm in trouble, Mom. The second mortgage, the development project, it's all collapsing. Finally, the truth, though, wrapped in self-preservation. So the wedding, the trust, the retirement home, none of it was about me. He looked down. It's both, he muttered. I stood, slipping the compass into my coat pocket. The sale is moving forward. The proceeds will remain under my control. I've also scheduled appointments with my doctor and attorney to document my competence in case anyone's thinking of challenging it. Lila's eyes filled. What about my wedding? I paused at the door. What about my dignity? Their silence followed me out into the cold night, sharper than the wind off the bay. For the first time in years, I didn't flinch from it. I welcomed it. Clara called the next morning. I've got a buyer. Cash offer, full price, 40-day close if we keep it off the market. I didn't hesitate. Yes. The following week, I drove to the beach house with boxes in the back seat. I moved through each room, deliberately choosing what to take. The mantle photo from our 40th anniversary, Robert's maritime books, a tin of shells Lila collected when she was 6. I left the heavy furniture the rugs Sophie once called dated the crystal glasses that had belonged to no one in particular. The tide was high waves slapping the rocks below the porch. I sat in the swing and watched the spray catch the sunlight. Robert had once said the ocean could wash away just about anything. Maybe he was right. That evening, Ethan came for dinner at my place in town. I told him about the sale. His fork stopped halfway to his mouth. Before the wedding? Yes, I said steady. They're going to lose it. Probably. But it's mine to sell. He set the fork down. You know what's strange? I respect you more right now than I ever have, and I've always respected you. The words caught me off guard, warm and heavy all at once. Thank you, Ethan. We cleared the plates together, moving in quiet rhythm. Outside, the streetlights flickered on casting thin lines across the kitchen floor. When he left, I stood at the window and watched him walk to his car. I thought about the storm that was coming and how for once I wasn't bracing to be knocked over. I was ready to meet it head on. The door was already closed behind me, and I had no intention of reopening it. The storm hit 2 days later, not from the sky but from my phone. Missed calls from David, stacked over texts from Lila, the last one in all caps, "Please tell me this isn't true." I silenced the notifications and slept soundly for the first time in months. By morning, David was on my doorstep in his running clothes, cheeks flushed more from anger than exertion. "What the hell are you doing, Mom? You can't just sell it." "I already have," I said, stepping aside. "Coffee. I don't want coffee. I want you to fix this. We've sent invitations, paid deposits. The venue can't change now. Then you better start looking for alternatives." His voice sharpened. "This is about the party, isn't it?" Lila's comment. She was joking. "This isn't about one comment. It's about a pattern. The retirement brochures. The meetings with my financial advisor without me. The attempts to get into my accounts." He stopped pacing. "I'm in trouble, Mom. The Wexford project failed. Investors are threatening to sue. I need that sale. You need it, not me." The doorbell rang before he could reply. Lila stood there, her hair pulled into a messy knot, eyes rimmed red. "Gavin's parents are mortified," she blurted. "Do you have any idea how this makes us look?" I thought of her at the party, holding my gift away, like it was something contaminated. "About as bad as I looked when you mocked me in front of everyone." "That was different," she whispered. "So is this." She left in a gust of cold air, the door clicking shut behind her. I poured myself that coffee hot and black and let the quiet fill the room. The first crack had formed, and it wasn't in me. Clara called with news I hadn't expected. They want to close earlier 10 days from now. They'll add $50,000 to the price if we can make it happen. I stared out the kitchen window at the bare maple in my yard, its branches etched against a gray sky. Do it. That night, I invited Ethan for dinner. Roast chicken, his favorite since he was a boy. He listened quietly as I told him about the accelerated sale. "That's decisive," he said, a smile tugging at his mouth. "Feels right, it does. And you're the only one who knows. I want it to stay that way." "Why me?" "Because you're the only one who sees me as a person, not a resource." He pushed his glasses up his nose, so like Robert used to do. "They're going to think you've lost it, you know. They already do. It's easier than believing I'm making choices they don't like." Ethan hesitated, then leaned forward. "They're planning something. An intervention. Dad, Sophie, Lila. They think if they can paint you as unstable, they can stop you." I almost laughed. Let them try. The next afternoon, a text from David, "Family dinner tomorrow, 7 p.m. Important." I could almost hear the stage being set. I replied with 2 words. "I'll be there," then called Harold. "They're setting up a case for incompetence," I told him. "Should I skip it?" "Only if you want to make their job easier," he said. "Show up. Show them you're not the woman they think you are." When I hung up, I opened my closet and ran my hand over a navy suit Robert had loved. Tomorrow it would do more than fit. It would speak. David's house glowed like a showroom when I pulled into the driveway. Through the front window, I saw them gathered, David pacing Sophie, rearranging the cheese board, Lila perched with a tissue in hand. Only Ethan stood apart, leaning against the mantel, his arms folded. David opened the door with a smile too practiced to be real. "Mom, thanks for coming. We've all been so worried." The living room was staged like a courtroom. On the coffee table lay the retirement brochures, an elder law attorney's business card, and 2 blank power of attorney forms. I took a seat in the armchair opposite them. Sophie began, her tones syrupy. "We're here because we love you. We want to protect you from making rash decisions." "By selling my house?" I asked. "Exactly." Lila jumped in. 3 weeks before my wedding, it's cruel. I let my gaze settle on each of them. What's cruel is being treated like I'm incapable of deciding what happens to what's mine. David's voice grew tight. Stress and age affect judgment. "We're just suggesting safeguards. For me," I asked, "or for your finances?" His eyes flickered. "That's not, I know about the failed development, the second mortgage, the debt, and the attempts to access my accounts." Color drained from his face. "Who told you does it matter? What matters is you tried to control me instead of asking for help." Sophie leaned forward. "Margaret, you're confused. I've never been clearer. The sale will be final next week and the proceeds will remain under my control. This little performance just confirmed I'm right. I stood picking up my coat. Lila's voice cracked behind me. What about my wedding? I turned at the doorway. What about my dignity? The room fell silent. I stepped into the cold, the night air crisp against my cheeks, and for the first time in years, I felt lighter. The closing happened on a clear March morning. I signed the last page in Harold's office, the pen steady in my hand. Congratulations, he said. By the end of the day, the funds will be in your account. It didn't feel like triumph, not exactly. More like the release of a weight I'd been carrying so long I'd forgotten what it was like to stand without it. 2 weeks later, I was unpacking the last box in my new condo overlooking the Providence River when the intercom buzzed. Lila's voice came through hesitant. It's me. Can I come up? She stood in the doorway holding a small paper bag. I found these, she said, pulling out the 2 dolls. They were in a box I never got around to donating. She looked up. You said there was something inside. I took the bride doll, slid a fingernail along the nearly invisible seam, and eased out the sapphire. It caught the afternoon light, a shard of sky in my palm. It's beautiful, she whispered. I don't deserve it. It was a gift, I said. Gifts aren't about deserving. She set it back in my hand. I can't take it, but I wanted you to know I finally understand what you were trying to give me. We stood there, the quiet between us, less jagged than before. She told me she'd started seeing a therapist, was thinking about going back to school. I told her I was glad. After she left, I placed the sapphire back inside the doll. Some treasures weren't meant to be given away twice. I set it on the shelf by the window where the light could find it. The river moved steady beyond the glass, and I thought not everything worth keeping fits in a deed or a will. Some of it is here in the space I've claimed as mine.